Welcome back to another episode of Gloves Off. I'm your host, Tara McGowan, also the founder and publisher of Courier, a network of independent newsrooms across this country, which is relevant for today's episode because we are going to be talking about the incredibly decentralized media and information ecosystem we all live in and navigate with one of the most wide-reaching and influential voices on the internet and social media today. My guest is Aaron Parnas. He is regularly in the top 5 accounts when it comes to reach and engagement across platforms, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. He also has a Substack. He drives literally hundreds of millions of engagements each month just by straight reporting the news. He does not put opinion or his own personal feelings into his reporting, but he publishes 10, 20, 50, sometimes more videos a day, breaking news to a very large audience across those platforms. And in a moment where we are seeing unbelievably aggressive, increasingly aggressive attacks on press and the freedom of the press by this administration, everything from the changing of policies and access at the Pentagon for reporters who walked out and were replaced by right-wing creators and propagandists, to the arrest of independent journalists like Don Lemon and others. This is an administration that is aggressively anti-freedom of press because they want to control the message on their terms. And so it's a really scary time when we are faced with very little truth or access to truth. So the work that we do at Courier, our reporters do across the country, and the work that Aaron does has truly never been more important. And yet we also all operate on the whims of the platforms, many of which are owned by Trump-supporting oligarchs who can censor us or good information and facts on a whim. So it's a really rich conversation. I'm really excited to share it with all of you, really excited to hear your impressions in the comments. So please hit that subscribe button so you can get more content like this, share them with your networks, and thank you for being with us. This is another episode of Gloves Off. I'm so excited to have my friend Aaron Parnas be joining us today. Aaron is literally one of the most influential voices on the internet and social media today. I just checked a fun dashboard that we use that our friends built called What's Resonating. And just in the last month alone, Aaron, you drove almost 100 million engagements across multiple social media platforms. And that's not impressions for those that are nerdy on the digital metric side. That's actually likes, clicks, shares, comments. It's people engaging directly with Aaron's content. He is a modern news creator, a term we use quite often at Courier, as so many of our reporters are. And I'm just really excited to talk to you because you are embodying Gloves Off in this new, wily, decentralized media and information environment we both exist and work in. But you came to it in a really interesting way that I'm excited to hear more about from you directly. So anyway, thanks for joining Gloves Off. Really excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Also, that stat is pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I really nerd out on that dashboard all the time, but you've been consistently in the top 5 or 3 or 1. And this is like all media brands. So the only ones that were ahead of you in the past month for engagements were Fox News, Barstool Sports, Jimmy Fallon. I'm missing one good one. What was the other one? Oh, I'm sorry, not a good one. Elon Musk.
Oh, I mean, listen, good company to have.
Who spent billions of dollars to get those engagements, Aaron. So well done on your ROI.
Thank you. Good company to be in.
Anyway, I'd love to hear you start by just like, some people might know some of your background. You have a fairly famous father for not super amazing reasons. That is not you, it's your dad. But it is super interesting given what you have chosen to do with your own voice and platform and persona. You also, I know, were once a pro-Trump Republican who is now one of the biggest voices reporting out and amplifying all of the news and reporting on this administration. So however you want to take this, I just think it's important for our audiences to know kind of your really interesting story on how you got to this side of the fight and with your gloves off in it in such a powerful way.
So I feel like the best way I could describe my story is kind of like a cat. Like I have 9 lives in the sense that I feel like I've already lived 4 or 5 different lives in my short 26 years on this earth.
I was gonna say, but you were born in 2000 or no?
1999, I'm a 90s
2020. I'm
baby.
sorry,
I'm a
2000. Look at me aging myself.
proud
2020?
90s baby. My story kind of dates back. I was really young, and I always thought I was going to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be a public defender. That was the goal, right? I accelerated through undergrad. Started undergrad when I was 14. Started law school when I was 18. Skipped a few grades. Did all that. Went to law school at GW in DC. In undergrad and in the early stages of law school, really, I was, you could say, a pro-Trump Republican, and we could talk about that because I, at the time, I didn't really even know what a Republican was. I kind of just said it because I grew up in a household where all I saw on TV was Fox News and Hannity, and so all I heard was, okay, this is what the country is.
You lived in the bubble.
I really did live in the bubble. And I think what people forget when they talk to me is that because I'm 26 years old, the first presidential election that I really was engaged in and like actively monitoring was 2016. People say, oh, we got to go back to the times of like normal pre, like Obama, Bush, where people got along and stuff. I don't remember any of that. Most people my age don't remember any of that. And so the first foray into politics I had was Trump. And when I lived in that bubble, all I thought, all I knew was that Trump was right in what he was doing. And so it wasn't until I literally left the house for the first time and went to law school as an 18-year-old that I was like, okay, maybe there's more to this world than just Trump. Still thought I was going to be a lawyer, worked at big and small firms, clerked for a federal judge. And then Russia invaded Ukraine. And at the time, I had family in Kiev, the capital. And I watched as my 6-year-old cousin had to sleep under a mattress as bombs rained overhead. And I felt as though what American media was doing at the time in terms of reporting on what was happening on the ground in Ukraine just wasn't sufficient. And oftentimes, what I would hear from my family on the ground, I would then hear on like CNN here in the States 2 hours later. And so I felt as though they were doing a disservice to what my family was experiencing. So I just pulled out my phone and just started TikToking. And within a week of sharing what my family was going through, my first-hand source, so to speak, I had 1 million followers interested in just Ukraine and learning more about Eastern Europe. Most people didn't even know where Ukraine was on a map before the war. And so did that for 7, 8 months or so while the war raged on. And then my account got permanently banned on TikTok. Russian trolls mass reported me, never got it back. Went back, worked as a lawyer a little longer, and then restarted, got the itch again in mid 2024. And now I've been doing this for about a year full time, and kind of the rest is history.
It's wild. And when you started doing the videos about Ukraine specifically, like, I mean, had you studied reporting journalism at all? How did you think about your approach on it? And I definitely want to hear how it's evolved too, because I think something so notable about your style, if you will, is that you're completely unafraid to talk about your own positions, your own views in general, and formats like this, but the mass volume of content amplifying reporting, which we do a lot of too at Courier. So it's not a lot of original reporting, right? But is pretty explicitly there is an editorial point of view always in what you decide to cover and how often you cover it. I say that about every newsroom or journalist or creator. But what's been so interesting is that you do it as pretty much straight reporting, which has lost a lot of
Yeah.
appeal in traditional formats or legacy media. I have a lot of thoughts on this too, but were you also doing that in the early videos,
Yeah.
or was it far more opinionated?
No, I mean, I tell everyone I wish no one ever knew my opinions. And the only time I really shared my opinions was like my first couple videos regarding Ukraine because I was like, this is impacting me and my family. And I didn't even know that I was going to do this work as a journalist. I thought I was just going to talk about my family. But no, I quickly pivoted, and that same monotone voice and that you see in every single one of my videos today is the exact same way I started. And I never studied journalism in school in the sense that like I don't have a journalism degree, but I do have a legal degree. And I tell everyone that the ethics I learned as a lawyer are that of, if not greater than that of a journalist, right? If I lie in a court filing, I'll be disbarred. theoretically I could lie as a journalist and I'll be fine tomorrow. I mean, I would lose some trust, but I'd be fine.
Well, let's revisit that one, Aaron.
We could we could revisit that one for sure.
That's making a lot of assumptions about the rule of law and the justice system working
Fair, fair. I mean,
the way it
I
should
say it
be.
in like a more kind of abstract macro lens of looking at like legal ethics. You're not allowed to lie in a court filing, right? Okay, so
100%. No, the dystopia we're living in will get us to get into the
yes,
heart of that question, which is on my list for us.
it is
But
very different. But I will say this: I mean, it's gotten to the point now where oh, at least 50% of the work is actually now original reporting. Like, and I say that because I spend 24/7 like monitoring firsthand sources. So when Donald Trump posts something on Truth Social, I don't wait for the Times to report it to then say the Times reported it, right? Like when a court filing is entered in a case, I have notifications going off in my emails every single day because I have the legal access to that. I read the court document, I post it. So it's gotten to the point where I have kind of turned into this like one man newsroom, and it's exhausting and it's kind of crazy, but I love every second of it.
you really are the epitome of what a modern news creator, modern journalist is today.
Yeah,
I think that because there are just so many primary sources that are just
yeah,
individuals actually speaking out, right, without a media filter whatsoever, because everyone is, we're each our own creator and journalist. And right now, also the most impactful reporting in the most literal sense of the word is coming from ordinary citizens with their iPhones, right?
100%.
That are out filming ice and things of that nature. So really the reporters of today, the journalists of today, because we talk about this a lot internally at Courier, they're there to contextualize, which they always have been, to contextualize the facts in the news. It's just that the sources, there's just everyone is a source now, and there's so much firsthand reporting available to contextualize, and you're a first mover on it, which is
Yeah,
has to be a huge testament to the growth and reach that you have. It's so interesting. So I actually do want to go back to that question where it's like you didn't want or feel the need to have your opinions be a part of it. So you weren't like most creators today who've built huge audiences and have a lot of trust. They've built them because they're really explicitly out there about their values, their opinions, things of that nature. And yet also it could have been a level of protection, a layer of protection in the past, but we know now with the increasing attacks on the press from every single angle by this administration, from what they changed the policy in the Pentagon to now, of course, the very much expected acceleration where they are now targeting independent journalists who they just don't like or who are explicitly against them or authoritarianism, like Don Lemon. I learned from one of your videos that Trump threatened to arrest Trevor Noah. Was that it?
yeah,
For his comedy. And we know that they just act in a retributive way in general. And given your history that is nothing in your family, that has nothing to do with you and what you do every day for work, we don't have this, or it doesn't feel like we have the legal protections anymore, and that it might just be a matter of time. And I know
yeah.
because you are so out there and you are reaching so many people that you are obviously a target, as I expect most of our friends and allies are. So how do you think about that? How do you compartmentalize that with the style that obviously made you enormously popular, but also is putting you much more directly at risk?
By staying true to myself. I mean that really is it. I think for me, people ask me all the time, like, am I scared of that they're going to go after me like they did Dawn? No, I'm not scared. I know that that is a possibility. I but I've experienced this like with my dad. Like I know when the Justice Department goes after you what that looks like from the family side of things. I've seen it as a lawyer representing clients against the Justice Department in Trump 1 and in Biden. I know how these people operate. And so am I scared? Am I nervous? No. I know it's a possibility, but by just staying factual and staying kind of ethical and keeping that going throughout my reporting. And for me, that means like there are stories I won't touch. Not because I think that um they're not useful for the public to hear, but if they're not fully vetted and verified, like for example, with these Epstein files, I'm very careful with the way I report on them because you say one thing wrong and you're going to have a defamation lawsuit. You may be fully right at the end of the day, but a defamation lawsuit is expensive to litigate. You can't just get rid of it. You're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars doing so. And so I'm very careful with the way I do things. And ultimately, I know that if people ever come after me, I'll have an army of people behind me willing to kind of say, like, no, this is not okay. Similar to what happened with Dawn.
Yeah. Have you engaged your audience directly in that
Yeah.
way? Not necessarily about you, but yeah, you have.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think more so on platforms like Substack, where it's like I have a more intimate relationship with my audience for sure. But I have. I mean, and I think that it's not even just me engaging them, it's also them engaging me in the sense of like they see what's happening and they're like, "Are you gonna be okay?" And kind of assuaging their concerns as well.
So you'll get that Kickstarter, get me out of jail.
Yeah.
Moving.
Start again.
No, hopefully it does not happen. But I think we all live in a world now where we have to think about it.
Yeah.
We are doing contingency plans all the time for our
100%.
reporters. Yeah. It is a scary place to be. So there's that, right? There's the potential to be detained, arrested, charged with absolutely ludicrous things just by reporting the facts or reporting in general on what this administration is doing. There's also censorship, which really, really, really would also impact your ability to keep doing what you're doing and informing people. And we know that so many of these platforms we all rely on, these mass media platforms of today, are owned by Trump supporting oligarchs, from Musk to Zuckerberg at Meta, and now, of course, Larry Ellison and his son owning Paramount, CNN, CBS, and now TikTok. So the TikTok throttling that happened right after the acquisition went through didn't affect you because you're forever banned. But we saw it, and TikTok came out, said it was like a glitch with the data center or something of that nature. There isn't enough evidence to prove that there was editorial kind of input. It affected everything, but we all know who are paying attention that it's only a matter of time. We did see last year a lot of Epstein content get flagged for no good reason and just kind of held up on TikTok. Meta has a long storied history. I have weighed in over the years on just turning the button on and off to political content or any content of their choosing. So we really do exist at the whim of a lot of these platforms, and having direct relationships to your audiences on many of them is a little bit of a hedge. But what's your plan if suddenly you wake up and half of these platforms just shut you down?
Yeah, I'm gonna go practice law again. I mean,
What if
that's
there's no justice
what if
system?
there's well, then, I'm just gonna I don't know, like, take my wife and we're gonna go on some island somewhere. I don't know. I mean,
That sounds
listen,
lovely. She probably supports that decision.
yeah. I think the good thing is that I've been able to diversify my platforms really well. So, like, my primary income, 99.8% of my income comes from my Substack. Almost all of it does. And that's a platform that's not controlled by Ellison or Musk or Zuckerberg, completely different, right? So that's number one. And at the end of the day, I own my 730,000 emails that I have there. And that's a business in and of itself. Number two, if they're shutting down me, they're shutting down everyone else. And at that point, then it's like, okay, we're in a much different conversation.
We're going back to pamphlets, I decided, Aaron.
Yeah,
You
pamphlets.
can get into the pamphlet business with me. We're
Yeah.
just
Okay.
going door to door.
Honestly, if they start shutting people down, I may just retire at that point. I may just be like, you know what? Like, it's not.
Aaron, this is gloves off.
Yeah, it is. It is gloves
Don't
off.
announce your imminent retirement on gloves off. You're going to fight till the bitter end with us.
Sometimes you have to know when to take the gloves off and no longer fight. I'm kidding. I mean,
No, I appreciate that. That is an opinion I've not had yet on the show.
there you go. There you go. I mean, listen, I don't know. I mean, I don't see this as a forever job. I don't see myself doing this for even 20 years. I really see this as like an in the moment thing of I'm kind of riding a wave, educating people. And then there'll be a time where I kind of phase out and I'm no longer like this hotshot news person and I'll have done my time and I'll move on to the next thing. And I think it's important for people to recognize when their time in an industry is kind of taking its course.
I think I wish more people would do that. That's a really interesting
Yeah.
take. Do you believe what you're doing right now is courageous?
I don't know. The answer is yes, but then it's like, on a scale of how courageous is it, right? Like, I think there are people who are a lot more courageous than me, for example, who are legal observers on the ground in Minnesota. That's more courageous than anything I've ever done. Or testifying on Capitol Hill as a whistleblower. That's more courageous. So do I think that what I'm doing is courageous? Yes, but it's like it's on a scale. It really just depends.
It's an enormous amount of responsibility to have the reach you have. Like, absolutely, it's in your agency to decide one day not to keep doing it or to pass the baton of that reach. But because we are in this world where you're not just working for a major media brand, right? And you can just, retire, get a sweet package, and kind of pivot careers. You can always pivot your platforms entirely, but do you think about that? Do you think about adding to your team, building it out into more of a media collaborative or company?
Sometimes I'm a control freak though. So
Hey, me too. That's why I started my own.
yeah, I mean, yes and no. Sometimes I think about it, but then like then I find time in the day to do what I like the what I needed more capacity for. I somehow find time in the day to do it. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It's kind of like a stay tuned.
So, who are some of the folks or outlets or brands or journalists that you really really look up to and source the most for yourself?
I wouldn't say I source the most here from this organization or this outlet, but they're the ones that I look up to the most, and that's ProPublica. I think they do amazing, amazing work, and I really wish that they were like funded more than the Washington Post.
Who
Right?
just,
Like,
by the way,
yeah,
today this will
not
publish
not because
later,
of
but
lack of money over there.
yeah,
That's
this
a
week
whole
just laid off an enormous slew
yeah.
of reporters.
And so like ProPublica, I think does great work, and then I think I look to individual journalists more so than like the organization. Like, yeah, the Post, I have issues with ownership, but like there are really good reporters in the Post that I really do trust and rely on. Same with the Times and elsewhere. But I would say without a doubt, there's nothing better. Like, no, ProPublica is like the excellence in my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. They do tremendous, tremendous work. And I'm constantly thinking in the work that you do, the work that our reporters do at Courier, a lot of it is lifting it up because it's so critical that it reaches more folks
Yeah,
and they don't have that reach. It's so true. And we're just losing so much investigative journalism in general. That's what I often bring up about all the capitulation of the big, most well-resourced, typically legacy media outlets is it's not just the propaganda turn they're making, like at CBS and Washington Post. It's what reporting is no longer getting done.
100%, 100%.
Right. And so it's why it's so important the work that you do. And it's so important that people are just publishing things that they're seeing with their own eyes and their phones, and that we are able to keep moving truth out there because journalism does not have, I mean, it was struggling for resources when I got out of journalism school over 20 years ago. And now it's near impossible. ProPublica is doing that amazing work. I also love Judd Lagoon.
Yeah, that does great work.
Popular Information. He does remarkable. Him and his small team do remarkable investigative journalism too. But it's hard to find.
I completely agree with you. And I don't know if you want to keep this in, but do you care if I record a quick video for like 45 seconds?
Of
Like,
course not.
okay,
This is going to come in it, but he's got breaking news right
I do
now.
have breaking news.
Let's go.
We have some huge news right now. The United States Supreme Court just gave Democrats a major win, allowing California's maps that it just redrew through Prop 50 to stand, which means that Democrats will likely pick up anywhere from 5 to 6 to 7 seats in the United States House of Representatives. The Supreme Court declined to hear a challenge from California Republicans today, who tried to overturn these maps on a whole host of legal issues. And this court, in an unsigned, essentially, order, rejected any challenge from California Republicans. You didn't even have any major dissents from conservative justices like Clarence Thomas, for example. And it comes as, for example, in Maryland, you have a Democratic Senate president who is hesitant on redrawing maps, even though they just passed in the House, in the Maryland House. And you can learn more about that on the link in my bio. But in any event, a major win for Democrats nationwide, a major win for Governor Gavin Newsom in California. Spread the word. And as always, follow along, stay up to date on all the news that you need to know about. I'll have more updates for you very soon. There you go.
And that's how it's done. Also, I have so many reactions to that. Thanks for doing that. That was totally off the cuff, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody hands you a script. This is how you do it. This is breaking news in real time. Also, really great news that I was delighted to hear from you directly in real time before your audience. I feel super special. And then my deep knowledge and cynicism kicks in and realizes they're giving us that win because they're going to take away the Voting Rights Act.
Yes, they are going to take away the Voting Rights Act. They are.
And that is,
I mean,
100%. And this is also how this Supreme Court, Trump's Supreme Court, Leonard Leo's Supreme Court has operated. They give us some small wins in order to cover for the larger ones to not be seen as partisan. And we all know they're full of shit, but we will take the small wins if that's all we can get.
Yeah. And the Voting Rights Act, I mean, tough. That's a tough case.
It is. And it's, it's just, yeah, we don't need to go into the details of what that's going to mean, but it's, for everybody who's going to celebrate the news you just broke about them upholding Prop 50 and Democrats being able to add seats in California, there's going to be so many seats lost, depending how quickly states can move when they overturn Voting Rights Act.
100%. I guess the only solace, the only positive thing I can give people in that regard is that it's not going to happen that quickly. Like, it's not going to, it won't impact 2026 much, but
that's the only silver lining and hope in any conversations I have with colleagues as well, is that they won't be able to mobilize quickly enough, but it will have dramatic, horrific effects on 2028 should there be free and fair elections, if we can still call them that, even with that.
Scary times.
Yeah, it is really scary times. So we were talking about this before we started recording, that we both contribute in pretty large ways to the doom scroll.
Yeah.
That it creates, we hope, a much more informed and engaged, I don't want to speak for you, I hope that the work that we all do is creating a much more informed and engaged population and citizenry, so they can act on truthful, factual reporting and information that impacts them in our country. But I also feel as though it contributes quite a bit to anxiety, and my biggest fear is always that it could contribute to paralysis or folks tuning out more. Given the enormous reach that you have, and you get millions of views on every video you publish every day, of which is multiple, people are engaging and tuning in. Is that a concern you have at all? Or do you think that we're in a moment that actually the stakes are so high that more folks want that information as opposed to tuning it out?
Well, if I'm anxious all the time, shouldn't everyone else be? I'm kidding. No,
right?
No, literally no. It's a consideration I have, which is why every Sunday, for example, I do only like good news updates, for example, on my Substack. So like you get all the good news that happen in this world as well. So that's one part of it. And I just completely posted the wrong video. Whoops. So
no real-time error do you need to correct?
No, I'll be fine. So that's part of it. Am I worried? Yes, I am worried. And I often think about the impacts that my videos have on people. But at the same time, I really think that it's critical that people stay educated in this day and age. Like, yes, my videos give people anxiety, but that's not because I'm giving them anxiety. And that's why I try to do it in like, I kind of, when we started talking, like a more monotone, just like, here's the news type of way, rather than like the sky is falling every minute of every day. Because if I do that, I mean, like people will start to tune out. And I also, one of my big things that I really had a pet peeve about just like the way media covers things generally, is like, if news breaks, these California Prop 50 maps, this broke 2 p.m. on the East Coast, right? I'm going to watch Abby Phillips' show on CNN tonight, and it's going to say breaking news, California wins in court. It's not breaking 9 hours later, right? Like, there is a way you can do it. You have to frame things to make it a little less like urgent all the time. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah. And it is hard, right? Because those formats, any cable news show or local news broadcast, evening news broadcast, that, there's still a population for. It's dwindling, and it's certainly aging. But there is also a population, of multi-generational population, that are, working multiple jobs, juggling families and elderly parents or relatives, and they're not, on their phone scrolling like folks that work in our world are, or that work in, remote roles or things of that nature. And so it's so interesting that, like, people kind of have to create their own like media consumption time. And a lot of it is passive, because something is breaking news only when you hear it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're getting it to more people more quickly, which is incredible. And then they can dig deeper with the later outlets or reporting, right?
Well, That's the thing. I tell everyone like who watches my content, like don't just watch my content. Like diversify your news sources, get things from other people, go do deep dives, go educate yourself. The biggest like fight back that you can take, the biggest counter to misinformation is accurate information. And so get that accurate information. And there are a lot of good journalists out there doing it. So I tell that to everyone. But yeah.
I think it's really remarkable that you grew up truly in a foxhole echo chamber and
Yeah.
then decided to, as a Gen Z, go into really what seems like traditional reporting
Yeah.
as a response and a reaction to that. And it kind of gives me hope, Aaron, that that could happen for a whole generation
Well, that's good.
or multiple, because regardless of whether it's a foxhole or it's an MSNBC hole, which I grew up in, right? Like it's wanting desperately to understand other opinions, or if you don't have that curiosity or that desire, you're going to be hit with it in the real world either way.
100%.
So important, and you're filling that vacuum, and we definitely made a different choice at Courier than you have, right? Like we want to be really transparent about the fact that we have values, and we stand true to those values and the positions we hold about rights and freedoms. The thing is, our values and our opinions have been labeled as progressive or left leaning or liberal, like, insert your left leaning word there, mostly by old school legacy media that doesn't want to be seen as left leaning or liberal, or right wing media.
Sure.
And most of our positions on issues are actually wildly popular. The vast majority of Americans support them and agree with them. But where my career started in at CBS News and in legacy media, I felt transparency was really important and that objectivity was a fallacy. I have to say, like, you are yourself not entirely objective, I understand, but like the fact that you are doing this in a way that is reaching a mass amount of people does give me a little bit of hope that there's still a space for that.
I think so.
It doesn't undermine the space for things like Courier, as long as we never ever, undermine the facts or do anything horrific like right wing media does, like sow
Yeah.
division, hate, all that stuff. We would never do that. We have those ethics and values, but we also need the straight facts to make a comeback, if you will.
Oh, 100%. I mean, listen, I think for me, it's like, I don't think there's any objective news anymore. I really don't. I mean, I think I tend to agree with you that objectivity is a fallacy. And so I just kind of just do my own thing. I don't know. I just do my thing, stick to the facts, just
So
make my
humble
videos.
about it, Aaron.
And I just
It
and I
just the algorithm just really liked you doing your own thing.
maybe that is what it is. I don't know. I don't put any money behind it. That I can tell you.
No, I know, and but people also know, they know what they're getting from you. They know that they're going to be informed. It gives me hope that so many folks want to be informed and are engaging and sharing your content, and that that we're in community with you, because it's sad. It's the sad reality we're in, that like truth is being eliminated in all spaces. Used to just be, by choice of what cable news program you watched, and now it's much more severe and going to be harder and harder for folks like us to get this information out. So it really is a courageous thing that you're doing,
Well, I appreciate that.
and it's interesting to think, like, I mean, in whatever the iteration is of a history book in 50 or 100 years. How do you think you and folks like you are going to be part of that story? Do you ever
Oh,
think about that?
no. Um, I don't actually, because I tell everyone that growing up, I always thought about it like, what does the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years look like? Where do I want to be? What do I want to be remembered as? And every time I like have an answer to that, it's always wrong, right? Like it's always like, it always turns out to be not true in terms of like life changes. Things are thrown at you that you don't realize that are even out there. And so for the first time in a long time, I'm kind of just very present in the moment. I'm not thinking about the future. I'm not thinking about 50 years from now. I'm not thinking about a year from now. Kind of just like taking each day by day, and I will be remembered by, and like history books will write about this time however they do. And I just hope that whatever it is, they just do so in a way that is most impactful. I mean, I think that like it just shows really the impact that we've had on this space in this time. And we'll see what happens.
As with how you started this somewhat accidentally, you were personally and emotionally impacted and motivated.
Yeah.
Is there another issue or line that could be crossed where you feel like you would shift your style in some way to put more of yourself and your opinions or values into what you're doing?
Yes, and I'm going to give you an answer that I think you're actually going to disagree with me on. When if the courts fail, the courts are the last line of defense, in my opinion, in terms of like authoritarianism and like shifting too far down that path. If the courts fail, you will see me a lot more outraged and a lot more talking about how this is a 5 alarm fire. I don't think the courts have failed us yet.
I was waiting for the part I might disagree with you on.
Yeah.
I think that we can say that they haven't completely failed yet, but um, they have not been upheld in every way. I forget the most recent stat. I think it's that the administration has already defied at least 97 court orders. So the courts are not failing, but what happens when you can't hold folks accountable for defying the orders?
Well, so I will push back a little bit
Please.
on that because I saw that stat too. That stat is a little it's a fallacy in and of itself.
There's a gray area
There's a
there.
gray area. Number one, there's a gray area in all of these
Of
legal
course
cases.
there
I
are.
mean, that's why lawyers exist. But number two,
But are there ones, this is actually new information for me. Are there ones that are counted in that stat that they have not appealed, but that are still in a window where they can, or no?
yeah, so that's where I was kind of going is
Got
like
it.
there are situations where like the Trump administration will quote unquote defy a court order, but then quickly appeal it and then get a stay or
Right.
whatever. That's the situation. There are other situations where I remember with like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, them sending those the migrants to El Salvador. That is a violation of the court order. But since being called out on it, they've kind of remedied it, almost all of it. So like when judges call them out, they do remedy it, even if they violate it. So there is some accountability there. Yes, it's technically a violation, but every time they get called out on it by a judge, they kind of pull back.
Well, and we're seeing that in all sorts of ways, not just with court orders, but I think that we're seeing this in Minneapolis right now, right? Like the backlash to the overreach and the violence, et
Yeah.
cetera. You're seeing them, not just the cover up side, but then mitigation, right? Okay, we just learned they're pulling 700 ICE out of Minneapolis. Like they're trying to do damage control. And so I mean, you've kind of moved me on this. It gives me hope that they that the courts have not fully failed us yet. I don't have a lot of confidence that that will stay. I'm grateful you do, and I'm also grateful that that will be the line that's crossed. And I hope it's not just for you. I hope that for a lot of the folks that are not moving away from this incredibly corrupt and unlawful administration that hopefully will be held accountable by the system, but that there are still lines to be crossed that folks will be able to shift and evolve from. So that actually gives me an enormous amount of hope.
I will say that once those lines are crossed, I really hope there is no one there who's like, let's be neutral and objective and just tell you what like
God, you
there
write a
will come
strongly worded letter, Aaron?
no more strongly worded letters, no more none of that. It's like if you're gonna cross some of these lines, like they gotta get called out on their shit.
Yeah. And then you might not find yourself retiring on vacation with your wife. I'm sorry to your wife. You might find yourself at the front lines of the coup.
Not with my bone spurs, I won't.
Okay, good. Leave the bone spurs at home. Last question I ask everybody is whether you believe that what you're doing is super courageous or not. What motivates you still to do it every day or inspires you?
Every day I get messages from Republicans and independents and people who've never watched the news and don't know anything about politics saying that they appreciate the work that I'm doing. That is what motivates me. Because if I'm breaking through and reaching people who aren't just in this left wing ecosystem, then I'm doing something right. So that's number one. And then number two is every time I speak to someone in high school, someone who hasn't voted yet, someone who's just like wants to be a journalist and wants to do this work. And I get energized by doing that and by talking to them. And so those are the two things that inspire me and like push me to continue doing this work every day.
Incredible. And Really grateful we got to be part of both a live breaking news hit on the show, as well as you accidentally posting the wrong video. I want to
It
let you
happens.
go so you can correct that error quickly for your audiences.
Already been corrected. Happened in real time. We're all good.
You're a machine, Aaron. It's incredible. We very much are grateful for the work you do. We see it very much as gloves off in a moment where we need this and need more of you, and hope it's contagious and hope you do stick around and hope that line is not crossed. So we can evolve all this work into a lot more good news. But
Yeah.
anything else that you want to share that I didn't ask you about?
No, I mean, I think that's it. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I mean, I love this podcast. I love that you're doing it. It's cool.
Thanks, Aaron. So appreciate it. We'll have you back.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. And I will see your face all over my newsfeed.
See you on the internet.
These conversations and the courage of these leaders are only as contagious as the audiences we reach. So if you felt inspired by this conversation and episode, please consider sharing it on your own social platforms and with your friends and networks. If you don't already, please follow Courier Newsroom wherever you follow news and information, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube so you can be the first to know when our next conversation drops. So excited to be in this fight with all of you. And until next time, please take care of yourselves. We need you.